welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Cassie, also known as KnittaCass. This is my YouTube channel where I talk about the projects that I am knitting, a little bit of crochet, which I usually say and have nothing to show, but today I do. Some family life, a bit about the farm life on my family farm in Vermont, and a spice of mental health. So grab your favorite beverage. I of course have my Pepsi because that is equivalent to most people's coffee for me. Grab a project that you're working on and let's get started. First of all, you can find me on YouTube as KnittaCass Creates, on Instagram as KnittaCass16, and on Ravelry as KnittaCass. So first of all, for finished objects, I have wanted to crochet for a while. I crocheted when I was growing up, but just like chains, nothing significant. And this past September, I told myself that I was going to learn, and I got that little kit. It has the books and the needles and the little notions, and I got one of those really nice big Karen cakes from Michael's. And I figured I'd kind of make like a sampler blanket, and I would practice the stitches, and at the end of it, there would be a finished product. However, I didn't know how to read my stitches or my rows, so it kind of went in some spots and out in some other spots, and it just looked really funky. So I put it away and decided that I would work on knitting projects instead and eventually get back to it. So I always tell people at the beginning of my channel that I'm going to have crochet, hoping that it will motivate me to actually show some. So I'm very excited today to be able to show you some crochet that I did. In the 11 Stitches membership run by Knitty Natty, this first quarter the theme has been Try It, and each month we have a different type of knitting or craft to try. Technique, I think is how she said it. So March is crochet, and I also think that March is National Crochet Month. So I watched a tutorial by Knitty Natty on how to single crochet with the right hand. She had you cast on 10 stitches, and she was really good about explaining like what the beginning stitch was and what the end stitch was, and just made it really clear how important it was, and some tips and tricks so that you weren't going in and out like I had been doing. I also had some friends suggest to put a stitch marker in the first stitch and the last stitch, and that helped tremendously. So I was going along and really enjoying the process. There's some spots you can see that aren't the greatest, but I was quite proud, and it's super narrow, so I didn't know what to make with it. So I turned it into a Pepsi coaster. There it is. So first finished object of this podcast, and it's crochet. Even more exciting is that my next finished object is a washcloth and crochet. If you've been with me for a while, you know that last year my goal was to make 12 washcloths. I was hoping that I would do one once a month. Wouldn't be a big deal, totally easy to make, or totally easy to accomplish this goal. However, I failed miserably. So I'm going to do it again this year. And I bought this really cool book from Knit Picks. This is the Kitchen Kaleidoscope. It has a bunch of different washcloth patterns. I've done a couple so far, just to kind of keep it interesting so that it doesn't get monotonous. So I figured if I can crochet a coaster, and a lot of people are telling me that it's a good like beginner easy project for a crochet would be a washcloth, I made a washcloth. I'm super proud of myself. There are, of course, again, there's some spots where I like missed a stitch or made an extra or whatnot. But all in all, it looks pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with it. It's got these nice kind of pinks, like coral pink and pastel pink, light blue, kind of turquoise. And this is by the Sugar and, I always want to say Sugar and Spice. I think it's Sugar and Cotton. I'll put it down here. And this is the colorway Coral Seas Ombre. My next finished object is also a washcloth. This is the Lacy Heart washcloth. It is a pattern by Jenny Williams. It is in that Kitchen Kaleidoscope book, and I just love the way it came out. So she wanted you to cast on 47 stitches on a size 5, which made it look really wide. I was not impressed. So I knew I'd have to make washcloth with less stitches cast on. So I counted the stitches that encompass the heart pattern, and then I had to decide an even number of stitches to put on each side so that it would have that garter border. I even went so far as drawing in the book and making little notes for myself. Because of the chart, it's written kind of tiny, I also was having a hard time keeping track of where I was. I was losing my place all the time. So it wasn't something that I could knit when I was watching a TV show I was invested in. It wasn't something I could knit while I was at a basketball game, which is where I do a lot of like my vanilla knitting. So it's just been hanging out there because I haven't had time to give it that time. And one of the decrease sections is not something I'm familiar with. So I'd be going along and I get to that section and I have to look down at the key and then do it, and it was slowing me down. So earlier this week I was really agitated and taking it out of my knitting. I wanted like as much as I could get off my needles. So I attacked this one first. If you can probably tell that it is missing the top border. So I was just excited. I finished the heart and I did a couple rows and I cast off and realized I didn't have a border, and I'm okay with that because it's off my needles. It's done. It's a washcloth. I can use it, and I don't think anybody's out there judging me about it. And if they are, I don't really care. So that's 2 washcloths since my last podcast, maybe 3. I have this one beside me. This is Grandma's Favorite Dishcloth. It is a free pattern on Ravelry. Got these nice little eyelets around the border here. It's also by the Sugar and Cream, and I don't know the colorway. So I have made maybe 4 to 5 washcloths this year, so I'm pretty excited. Today is March 4th, so that's pretty good. My next finished object is my shawlography. Stephen West does a mystery shawl knit along every year. He does it in October. You get a clue every week. You knit that little clue. You know it's going to be a shawl, but you have no idea like how big or the construction, what it'll look like, what the finished object is. So I did it last year. Last year was the slip extravaganza. I really enjoyed the experience and love the way the shawl came out. So this is my slip extravaganza, and I just love it. I love the colors. I love the way it came out. I love the process. It's usually sitting back here on my rocking chair, and I'll use it to kind of, if I'm cold or like wrap up and read a book. So I was really excited. So shawlography this year, and I have had problems with it from the get-go. So the first clue was this part up here. And where the pink is, I was using a tan color yarn. It was a different weight yarn than the other yarns I was using. I didn't think it would make that much of a difference, but it did, and it looked terrible. So I ripped it all back and started over. So I started with the pink, and I was like, okay, we're gonna be good. And then I got to this part. So pretty. I love that part. And then we got to these I-cord loops. I've never made an I-cord loop before. It was really weird when I was making it because I don't know where this is going. Like, this is strange. I've never done it. Am I doing it right? And then I thought it looked kind of cute. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Then I got to these wedges. Yeah, I'm not a fan. I could totally live without them in my shawl. I'm still not entirely sure that I made them correctly. I think I made each one a little bit differently. Didn't enjoy the process. Don't like the way it looks. I think my shawl would have been just fine without them. And then there were these bobbles. I was like, all right, well, sometimes bobbles can be okay. I was knitting a sweater by Dragon Hoard Designs that had bobbles. Liked it. For some reason, it just doesn't go on the shawl. Then I got to brioche and loved it. This is the first time I've actually been able to understand the rhythm of brioche. So it made me really excited. I love the way the colors play together. Then there's these like purple crisscross things. Those were a royal pain to make. They were a pain to cross them. Some of them I don't even know I did right. I don't know. It looked really nice on other people's shawls. The last clue was finishing your shawl. There was 2 options. One was the smaller version and one was the larger version. The smaller version had you make an I-cord bind off after the crossy things. but I hadn't seen anybody do it. Nothing on Instagram, nothing under the hashtag on Instagram. So I was like, I don't know. But I have not been a fan of the shawl. And the last step is these little diagonal stripes that repeat using all 5 colors. And it makes the shawl grow tremendously, and that would just be a lot of hours, but wanting to get stuff off my needles and not a fan of this project. So I did the I-cord bind off. It's not the best, but it's done. I'm definitely not going to wear it. I don't think it's gift worthy. I don't think it's going on my rocking chair, and it's probably going to end up in that basket over there of random things that I've made that I don't necessarily use. Probably won't do the mystery knit along next year. I would feel more comfortable seeing the finished project now. I went through a lot of hours that I didn't enjoy making something I'm not going to use. My last finished object is my sock pattern. This is the Twisted Sister socks. And the twists are designed to come in towards each other. So this one is the right sock and the twists are coming in towards the middle. And then this is a left sock and it's coming in towards the middle. And it's also got these nice little twists in the back of the sock. Super fun to design, super fun to make. It is in this gorgeous yarn colorway. It is called Apple Crisp by Hypnotic Yarn. I got it in a Yarnable subscription, I think in September, and absolutely love it. I love all the yarn colorways. I love the way the yarn feels from the Yarnable subscription boxes. I loved all the extra goodies that came in it. One of my favorite subscription boxes ever. So unfortunately, I am on an extended leave of absence from work, so I had to do some strict budget cuts and had to cut Yarnable out. But if you do get the chance to sign up for Yarnable, I highly recommend it. You will definitely enjoy it. I would recommend going to Hypnotic Yarn's website, signing up for their newsletter. The next time there is a slot open, you will be notified in your email, and then you can go and sign up. That pattern will be releasing on Monday, March 14th. Today is March 4th, so that will be in 10 days. So I have a couple hose. One I had the last time I podcast. It is living in this nice little bag from Mid Mittens Designs. This is the one from last podcast. This is the Rose Covered Cage Mitts by Dragon Hoard Yarn. It is inspired by this book, Court of Thrones and Roses. And it came with this cute little stitch marker to go along with it. I am just starting the color work. My other hoe is the Pumpkin Spice Latte socks. They are on my Make 9 and they are by Twin Stitches Designs. It is in this nice tweedy orange colorway by Fiber Stash Yarns. The colorway is Basic Bitch. So this is a cabled pattern. Well, it's essentially a cabled pattern, but she calls it left cross and right cross, which isn't wrong either. So it's got this nice, I don't know what you call them. Crowns comes to mind, even though it's not crowns. And then it's got this nice detail here. And it's super easy to follow. It becomes super intuitive. So there's one of them. And I just barely cast on today for the second one. So that is my only hoe that is new and my second hoe that I have. For whips, I have the second mitt for the Rose Covered Cage mitts. I have the second sock for the Pumpkin Spice Latte socks by Twin Stitches Designs. And then I have some yarn barf over here. This washcloth that just keeps hanging out. It's kind of big. I was at a basketball game and I just randomly cast on stitches. So that's probably part of why I don't enjoy it. And a couple of the last few games were just really exciting and I didn't knit on it. And it's just not interesting enough to knit here. So I'm probably actually going to frog this and make one of the patterns from my book or the new pattern that I got in my email. I don't think I brought that up. So My friend Alana knows that I'm trying to make washcloths and I don't want to keep making the same pattern. And she let me know of the kitchen sink, and I am now part of their newsletter thanks to her. And you will get a new washcloth pattern every month. So I did get the pattern in my email for March. I think it was like right on March 1st. So that's exciting to kind of build my options for washcloths so I can definitely get my 12 done this year. Future cast ons. So with me doing crochet and on my Make 9, I have a couple crochet projects. I want to do the float tote this month, or at least start it. Knitty Natty is going to be doing a couple workshops that are exclusive to the 11 Stitches members, and one of them is on the float tote, so I'm going to jump on that bandwagon this month and hopefully cast on soon. I also want to use her scrubby patterns. She uses some tulle and does this nice little crochet circle, and it becomes a really nice kitchen scrubby. And then I want to restart my cabled sweater. It is the Monte Rio by Stephanie Talent. You've heard it 100 times this year. Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady and Lindsay of Sock Witchery are hosting a cabled garment make-along. It started in January. It's going to go until June. And I had picked out the Monte Rio. I put it on my Make 9 and I was going to use it for this knit-along. And I ordered this like bright pink, what I thought was the yarn, off of Knit Picks and started making it. It felt kind of chintzy, felt cheesy, like something wasn't right. I kept ignoring it. And then I think I was getting ready to do my notes for a podcast and saw that it was like 100% cotton, or like cotton and nylon. So not at all what I want. So I was going to keep knitting to kind of do the, practice the construction of the cabled sweater, and then I decided that it was taking too much of my time. Of note, I want to apologize for the ebb and flow of light. I was doing this podcast earlier in the day. I was having technical difficulties. This is actually like the 9th time that I have done the podcast today, and hopefully this one will save. And a lot of the natural lighting around my house is gone. So even though I have this ring light, it's not much. And every now and again, we get some brightness and some darkness from the natural lighting. So I apologize about that. Okay, so I put that aside. I picked out, I think it's dragon fruit yarn. It's Wool of the Andes on Knit Picks. I ordered what I needed, I put it in my cart, and I've been wondering why it hasn't arrived. And it's been a while, a couple weeks at least, and Knit Picks is usually fast. So I went in my emails and I was looking for like a confirmation and delivery shipping info, and I never placed the order. So I don't know if I did it in the middle of the night. I don't know if I did it like ahead of the paycheck and I meant to check it out. No idea. So I don't know when I'll get that started, but because it's cabled and it's a sweater, I really should cast it on sooner rather than later if I want it done for the Make Along by Lindsay of Sock Witchery and Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady. Family life, not much has changed. Basketball has finished. Both my boys were really good at basketball. My oldest had some time to play on varsity. My younger basketball player was really kind of like the MVP of his team, a little bit bossy. I think I've talked to that a little bit. And we started homeschooling. So this is week 1 of homeschooling. Absolutely in love with it. There was one day where, I think it was yesterday, where I was like, I'm out of my mind. This is ridiculous. But it was just that one time. I think it's going to take some time to acclimate. But I'm loving it so much, I wish I had done it sooner. If you homeschool, I would love to know, like, if you're more curriculum-based or freeform-based, or if you focus mostly on, like, real-life experiences. I'm doing a little bit of all of it to try to figure out what works for my family. But I'd be really curious, like if you put some down below of programs you used, or if you prefer more curriculum-based or like freeform life-based, let me know. I'd be really, really curious. Farmlife, of course, my ladies are pregnant, Daisy and Alice, and we have been doing some deep bedding, which is like layers of bedding during the winter. It creates this nice environment. and helps keep them warm because I live in Vermont and we get a lot of days during the winter that are below 0. So 2 weeks ago, we were having like 30s and 40s. I think 1 or 2 days was like low 50s, super warm. So it was getting soggy and smelly. And so I was like, okay, you know, like it's not quite spring, but if we keep having this weather, it makes sense to take the bedding out. So I worked on that last Monday. It took me all day. I did take a couple of long breaks, but it was like 6 inches of packed waste hay and poop. Smelled, didn't bother me. Like, you know, I'm getting used to like stinkiness. But it's so heavy. And I did it by myself and I didn't think I could do it. And I was doing it really well, struggling, like sweating, struggling. But I was feeling so strong and proud of myself that I could not wait to tell my husband that I did it myself instead of waiting for him to help me on the weekend. However, I injured myself. Not anything major, but this whole arm and shoulder hurt so bad. No matter how I held it or if I put it on pillows or didn't put it on pillows, I was just in so much pain, like daily, wanting to cry. It probably lasted 6 days. I'm a nurse and we're supposed to do things like the right way. Most nurses don't. We'll tell you the right thing to do, but we don't listen. So I was eating ibuprofen and Tylenol like they were candy. And it wasn't helping. I was using a heat pad. So I went a whole week without knitting. And I was really sad. So my husband said, you know, you probably injured it when you were doing the deep bedding. And I was like, no. Like I felt like that was an insult. Like it meant that I wasn't strong. So as the week went on, it became very obvious that I got injured while doing it. And so I gave it some time and it got better. Like the last day, it was uncomfortable for half the day. And then it was like unbearable and then less unbearable. And then it just hurt. And then the next day it just hurt. And then like 2 days after that, so like maybe 9 days later, I didn't hurt at all. So I probably just like ticked something off in there. Just like it was probably inflamed and swollen and angry. Anyways, so hoorah, tough woman. I did it by myself. It was super freaking hard. Super proud. Then, Vermont. It gets cold again. It gets below 0 again. Then we get more snow. And then it gets more cold. And we get more snow. And it's been nothing but cold weather since. So I'm working on building it back up. I don't want it to be as thick as it was for 2 reasons. 1, it was hard to clean it. 2, we're definitely going to have times over the next month or so where it's going to be unseasonably warm. So it'll start to melt. But also, I have the ladies who are going to be lambing, and I don't want it, you know, super gross, especially if they go early. I do, however, have the pen split in half, and the back half isn't currently being used. So that will be the labor and delivery. That will be the lambing section, and it does have the 2 jugs in there to have the sheep with their babies for their first little bit for the bonding. So hopefully I can keep them warm enough. They seem fine. They don't seem bothered. They're not shivering. They're not hovering. They're acting the same way they usually do. So hopefully they are not too upset with me. And no more funny stories. Last time I was on here, I had some funny stories. I don't have any funny stories. But I am going to a lambing clinic tomorrow. So I've had a lot of anxiety about them lambing and not doing it right or something bad happening and me being unprepared. I'm a wicked book nerd. I love to read. I love to learn. So I have been absorbing everything I can. And there's so much information, it's hard to know what to focus on. And some people that make the information, they live like in a different climate area where, you know, if a sheep lambs on the pasture, they're going to be warm, they're going to be fine. Not so much here in the winter. So, and then a lot of books contradict each other. Like half of them will say one thing and the other half will say something else. And it's my first year. and I feel clueless despite how much research I do. So one of my friends showed me that there is a lambing clinic at the Shelburne Farms in Vermont, and it is tomorrow. It's for 3 hours. So I signed up for that, and I'm hoping that I will learn some things and feel more confident about the lambing process. So stay tuned. I'll probably have some information or stories about that the next time you see me. Okay, books. So I have finished Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. It was a book club book for the 11 Stitches membership last month. I didn't finish it in time, but I was curious enough to finish it. I may have talked about finishing it the last time. It wasn't entirely predictable, but it wasn't entirely a surprise. Wasn't my favorite book to read. It did want to know the answer, but it wasn't as satisfying as I thought it would be. That's okay. Then I finished, I think it's Knit 1 Kill 2 or Knit 2 Kill 1 by Maggie Safer. I'm not sure I'm saying it right. That is our book club book for this month. It was super brain fluffy and just really interesting to kind of see how the plot went together. I did not call it. I did not sleuth it. There was 2 people I swore were the murderers, and neither of them were. And there was one who seemed a little like an odd person, but I never would have guessed they were it, and they were. So that was kind of cool. And then the Crescent City book 2 came out, and I cannot put it down. I am trying to pace myself because I don't want to read it so fast that it's over, but I also want to know what's happening. I want to read it. So I'm probably halfway through it, super enjoying it, and it's bringing back a lot of the feelings and characters and emotions I had towards the characters from the first book, and it's just keeping me on my toes. Super exciting and just absolutely love it. It is by Sarah J. Maas. She's also the author that the rose-covered cage mitts is inspired by. That book series is the Court of Thorns and Roses, also by Sarah J. Maas. I have to put it down here. There's another series of 5 books that are amazing by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know. I'll put it down here. Super highly recommend her. Okay, so that brings us to mental health. So I always like to wrap up with a spice of mental health and encourage you to fill your cup, do something that makes you happy. You cannot pour from an empty cup, so it's really important to take care of yourself, fill your cup, so you can be that person that is okay helping, sharing, and loving others. So this week is going to be bless and release. You may have heard this term. If you haven't heard this term, that's totally fine. I think everybody has a little different interpretation of what it means to them. So to me, it means naming your feeling or identifying the situation that you cannot control, and either saying it into your head or saying it out loud, or actually sending a little blessing that way, like some positive energy or a blessing, a prayer, whatever that means to you, and then let it go. No longer put it in that backpack of crap you're carrying around that's weighing you down. Just bless and release. You can't do anything about it. You're not going to change anything by stressing about it. You're not going to change anything by putting it in your backpack. So bless and release. That is your homework for this week. So find something. Actually, you don't even have to find something, because we're all living in this crazy world, and there are things that are stressful all around us that we cannot control. So if you get that invading thought, or you start to stress about it and it's just weighing heavy on your heart, just, bless and release. All right, I think that's it for today. So I hope that you have some happy crafting and fill your cup, and I will see you next time. Bye.